Hello, everyone. I'm Paola Grelli. I'm one of the members of the TESOL Italy committee. Our speaker of this session is Chris Walker. Hello, Chris.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Chris Walker has been using music and songs in this classroom for many years, dating back to his very first lesson in the mid-90s. He's passionate about the learning potentials inherent in songs, and is also a TEDx talker as well as author of the Teaching Tracks series of books. So with this session, whose name is Music and Songs and the Gift to Enlighten, Inspire, and Offer Hope. And so, Chris, the floor now is yours.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're feeling well today and the conference is going well. My name is Chris Walker, and it's a pleasure to be here today presenting at TESOL Italy. A little bit to start off about me before we go. So ever since I've been a little lad, I've been crazy about music. I've always been aware, I think, of its power. And since I started teaching a quarter of a century ago, I'm very sad to say, I've been aware of its usability in the classroom. In fact, the first ever song that I used in the classroom was in my first ever lesson, Stevie Wonder's Superstition. For the last 10 years, I've been promoting using songs in the classroom at conferences in the UK and all over Europe. And for the last 5, I've been putting my ideas into action by producing the Teaching Tracks series of books, which you may have heard of. If not, I'll tell you a bit more as we go on a bit later. Music and songs then offer an array of uses in the classroom. Not least amongst these is their ability to enlighten, uplift, and offer hope. And this session will look at how best to utilize all that they have to offer and why they are quite simply the gift that keeps on giving. I think there's nothing that brings us together quite as well, or quite in the same way really, that music does. Something that's been even more evident during the trials and tribulations that we've all been through in the last few years. This huge potential, the huge potential that the resource has and offers in ELT though, is unfathomably rarely fully tapped. And this talk aims to reverse that, focusing on how this resource can be used to explore a range of personal, local and global issues. And in doing so, give the students the wherewithal to make sense of what's occurring in the world around them, whilst crucially also engendering positivity and hence hope. And this session is part of a larger CLIL, Content and Language Integrated Learning project, that seeks to ensure that the 2020s are the decade in which the multifarious use of songs in the classroom are employed to explore and discuss a range of contemporary as well as future concerns. So the tumultuous times of the early 20th century, particularly the effect of austerity in certain countries at least, including the realization of the extent of long-standing prejudices and injustices that many face, as well as increasing awareness of the climate catastrophe. Then, of course, along came COVID and its many resultant difficulties, yet thus further impacting not only on our physical health, but also our mental health and our peace of mind, making it a time in which it's been difficult for even committed optimists, let alone the rest of us, to see past present calamities and into a brighter future. All this has meant that we've witnessed a time of greater division, actually, than in most people's living memory. And this has not been helped by problematic cliches that have been foisted upon us in many countries, the worst of which, I think, has been the hugely inaccurate, not to mention insulting, "We're all in the same boat," meaning, of course, we're all in this together. And the picture there, I think, illustrates the difference between some people's boats and others. Conversely, though, these trying times have also borne witness to the best aspects of the human spirit. And in order to think on such issues today, I would like to wear 2 hats. I'm not actually wearing a hat at all, but the expression, I like to wear 2 hats. The first being that of my day job, which is a cultural commentator, I think. I lecture history, politics, cultural studies rather, at a UK university. And secondly, that of my night job. So I write materials based on well-known songs that confront and analyse and look at topical, controversial and personal issues. And I think that, you know, Jimi Hendrix is quite right when he famously once said, music doesn't lie. If there's something to be changed in the world, then it can only happen through music. So this session will explore how we can use songs and music, not only to inform and challenge politically and culturally, but also help uplift and calm us, calm our spirits in these trying times. For it's my belief that never has there been a better time in which to make use of the wisdom and solace that music can bring. Why use songs? What I'd like to focus on today is the role that music and songs can play in education and your future teaching. I believe very strongly that songs are a great input resource, applicable in most, if not all, educational settings. Perhaps they're even the best. What do they have to offer? Well, firstly, is their ability to help us explore topics in detail. Secondly, their ability to enlighten us on these areas, which can lead, I think, invariably to clarity, to understanding on issues. And last but not least is their ability to empower us, and thus giving the students the wherewithal to make sense of the world around them. Songs and lyrics have a special way of getting to grips with a range of topics because they offer a unique opportunity to discuss personal, political, controversial, social justice, and a range of other issues and concerns at kind of at arm's length, I think, due to them being through the eyes of the songwriter. I have to admit, this isn't my usual kind of session. I often do hands-on workshops and things like this on using songs as input materials. Mostly this is a talk with a couple of opportunities to input, but it's really also, I think, a series of vignettes focusing not only on musical's educational possibilities, but also its power to heal. So life has been tough lately, the last few years. I think that much is clear, even to the point perhaps of being a kind of truism or a cliche. In my life outside ELT, as I said before, I'm a historian, so I should perhaps be aware more than most that life has actually always been tough. Life is always tough and always has been. Although, of course, historians understand that for obvious reasons, the present is always more trying than the past, which obviously has been and gone, and the future, which, you know, might never happen, right? But when the pandemic struck just a short while into the new decade, into the 20s, music took on a significance all of its own as we went into lockdown, which was a new one on all of us. None of us had experienced such a thing before, or the isolation and restrictions that it brought. However, in many countries, for example, Spain and here in Italy, although those were by no means the only countries, the human spirit proved itself unstoppable. And one of the main ways in which it did this was through music. And if we have a look at just some of these shots that are taken of people on their balconies, playing music or singing or expressing themselves, and also, I think, by definition, helping others cope with the difficulties of their situation. It hasn't just been on balconies, though, that songs have been offering the opportunity for solace and reflection. They've also been used as a much needed injection of positive thinking in the classroom, both Zoom and otherwise, and ELT and otherwise. Prior to the commencement of the pandemic, a colleague of mine shared how she was using music to unite her ESOL students. So ESOL, I don't know if you know what it is in the UK, but it's like refugees, asylum seekers and the like. So they were new to the UK and they didn't know each other. Indeed, they hardly knew anybody at all in the UK. And she reflected thus, and it might be worth just having a read through this quote. So I hope you've had enough time to read that. So this is the situation she found herself in and her students in, and spurred on by what she'd seen in my course book, Teaching Tracks, and using both ideas and materials from there, as well as her own interpretation of those, she employed the Fleetwood Mac song, Don't Stop, to try to inspire friendship and hope amongst these students. She implored them to focus on the core message of the song, that of not giving up and of always looking at each new day with renewed hope, asking questions such as, if a friend was going through a bad time, what advice would you offer them about tomorrow being better? She also used warm imagery, sunshine, rainbows, smiley emojis, dream, thought bubbles, and the like. to draw out upbeat language and correspondingly uplifting thoughts from them. I think the thematic area within Don't Stop, which is one of the future possibilities, could be reinforced by many other songs, and these are just some that come to mind. Wings by Birdie, One Day Like This by Elbow, Mr. Blue Sky, an old one there by Yellow, and an even older one, Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles, and a host of others that contain similarly upbeat yet crucially non-facile messages. And also, to go with this, there was a range of kind of language-based activities. I won't spend too long on this, but just to give you some ideas, and you're welcome, of course, to take photos of the screen all the way throughout this. So there was kinesthetic activities where you get students moving, you know, look at the lyrics in this verse, decide which of these words and phrases you can mime or make gestures to, then perform this verse in front of the rest of the class, and they could take bits of the verse each. So this was a nice idea. Or lip syncing along or singing along. Lip syncing is sort of like perhaps an idea that if students are a little bit nervous or shy about singing, lip syncing can produce those shapes in the mouth to emulate what you do. And the instructions for teachers were things like divide your class into groups, for example, with this song, 3 groups. So they had a verse each. Get them working together on the chorus, and then miming out the words, you know, and the phrases that come through the song, like wake up, smile, open your eyes. All of those are mimeable, I think. Producing gestures also to match what goes on. Choosing whether you want to lip sync or sing along, depending on your confidence levels. Or for the more artistic, perhaps, students or ones that don't want to do that, you know, drawing pictures of words in the verse. So bringing the song really to life, I think, was the idea there. Professor David Crystal, who I'm sure you all know, said that music has the power to engage all the emotions, from excitement to relaxation, from tears to laughter. Indeed, it could be said to have a magical or perhaps even miraculous quality to it too. Last summer, 2021, highlighted the case of a young man called Thomas Leeds. This is a picture of him here, who 10 years previously, in 2011, aged just 19, had a road traffic accident. As a result of this, he suffered what's known as face blindness, a brain imagery that leads to the loss of all, or some or all, in this case, all pre-injury memories, including, heartbreakingly for those concerned, his loved ones, facial recognition. So he couldn't recognize his loved ones at all. However, some 10 years later, last year, he happened to hear the unique drum, keyboard, and jangly guitar intro to a song, which appeared to spark some kind of a recognition. And by the time the lyrics to the Waterboys' The Whole of the Moon had kicked in, a series of flashbacks were taking place, leading to a memory chain, which enabled him, through association, to recall memories from pre-injury times. So this was seemingly a miracle, not only for him, but by implication for his loved ones too. The song that brought back his memory seems more than coincidental if you know the song, or if you don't, when you look at the lyrics. Feel free to Google them. Certainly there's a relation between what happened there and the lyrics. And over in the States, there was a congresswoman called Gabby Giffords, and she suffered aphasia, which is an inability to speak. She'd been shot. Strangely, though, they found that she could produce sounds when she was singing. So she couldn't speak, and yet she could sing songs that she knew, which is really quite odd. I think you'll probably agree with me. So music clearly, I think, has the power to penetrate us, because, as espoused by the neuroscientist Daniel Levitin, author of This Is Your Brain on Music, he said that humans are hardwired for music, and that this hardwiring goes back to, to when we were born, and perhaps even further back to when we were in the womb, because fetuses can begin to hear like this, I suppose. In other words, absorb and react to sound as early as 17 to 19 weeks. And experts actually believe that what the fetus is hearing is akin to what we would experience when we hear music underwater. So David Crystal again believes that music's power to calm is also well recognized. Lyricless music in particular has been found to be effective in exploring techniques such as visualization, where with eyes closed, thus blocking out the interference of the world, we can focus and concentrate more easily. I think increasingly in this fast-paced world, ambient sounds, music of a classical nature, pastoral kind of compositions, or the relatively recent field of frequencies are all being kind of explored in order to aid one's ability to relax and calm one's mind in difficult times. And such types of music have also been known to be successful in facilitating creativity. For example, visualization techniques, which can be used for more than just enhancing our well-being. They also present the possibilities for classroom usage. So you can do very simple and well-known ELT activities, such as conjuring up words of different types, getting students to close their eyes, and then asking them questions such as, how does this piece of music make you feel? Getting them to produce adjectives and other forms of descriptive language, perhaps outside their usual repertoire. More ambitiously, students can be asked, what story or scenario does this piece of music bring to mind? Which can lead to production of not just words, but doodles, sketches, or such like. And afterwards, there can be linguistic possibilities as they can explain what they imagined or what they sketched. The lyrics in songs can have an enormous effect too. Music producer, composer, and social entrepreneur Franz Fitzpatrick put it like this: words and ideas are implanted into our subconscious through the music, reinforcing thought patterns that can affect our mood or outlook. Songs, that is to say, the combination of music and words, commonly known as lyrics, have an even more special power, I think. Yip Harburg, the songwriter of one of the most famous kind of paeans to optimism and a brighter tomorrow, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, of course, from the very famous Wizard of Oz, 1939 release, we know what was happening in the world in 1939, explained, words make you think a thought, music makes you feel a feeling, but a song makes you feel a thought. So I was thinking perhaps this is why Thomas Leeds' memory recalibrated itself a decade later after he heard the vocals and the lyrics from that Waterboys anthem. He felt thoughts that his apparently forgotten past, which in turn set in motion a kind of memory chain process, perhaps. Music can change the way we feel, and the correlation, I think, is a very important one. It's an area of recent human discovery. I certainly don't have any more than a very, very basic understanding of what's going on here. But the connection between hearing and feeling is clearly a very important one. Music has the innate ability, I think, to change the way we feel and dictate the way we think and act. Would you agree with that?
Well, it could seem so from what you've just said so far as well. I'm just checking in the chat if there's any. Yes, somebody's saying the power of music. So I guess this is the point.
Yeah, I think
I totally agree. Somebody else is saying.
Yeah, good. That's great. So everyone has different reactions to different genres and different emotions in music, I think, which is very interesting. And there's been considerable research on how certain genres of music with a particular message, energy or beats per minute or whatever it is, can affect the way you do something. So, for example, the way you drive. Certain types of music may engender a kind of more devil-may-care attitude, making you, exceed the speed limit, or in some cases, far exceed it. It's not an easy task, I think, to drive slowly or cautiously if you're listening to kind of quite energetic rap music like NWA, or quite kind of really kind of heavy rock and roll rock music like AC/DC or pumping house music or something like that, right? Indeed, research has shown that, perhaps surprisingly, that jazz, presumably I think the faster paced stuff rather than cool jazz, so-called, is more laid back, is the genre that's most likely to make people speed when they're driving. On the other hand, it's hard to get too hepped up about things if you're listening to beautiful, calm, pastoral compositions such as Kate Bush's Ariel, or the works of Ralph Vaughan Williams or Shostakovich. And what is it exactly about listening to a band like Steely Dan that makes you want to put on your sunglasses, wind your window down and cruise? And this is true in all sorts of scenarios, I think. Concentrating, relaxing, lovemaking. Certain types of music will work for us and others will ruin the mood. There are particular songs, I think, I mean, we can do this in the chat box. Are there any particular songs that make you feel certain emotions? And I've just put some there. Is there any that make you feel calm? Any that make you feel sexy or romantic or fired up? Anybody like to contribute in the chat?
Somebody, in fact, is saying that I choose my music according to my mood. So it's exactly what you. Is actually this. Daniela Carla is just anticipating what you were saying.
Yeah.
Let's see if anybody is adding up any songs or any other Christian pop rock. Carrie, Elise Rodella, plenty of them. For many others, difficult to actually point out one. Jackie Wilson, Higher and Higher.
Oh yeah,
that's true.
That's done it for me, that one.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. And also, you can pick the songs according to your mood, or you can alter your mood a bit with the songs. I'm not saying you can drastically change it like that, because it doesn't quite work like that, but you can certainly drop down a level. You can calm yourself down with certain things.
Emily Bryson is saying also Lovely Day by Bill Withers, which is Withers.
Bill Withers, yeah. It's great, isn't it? I mean, there's some sort of classics out there, but music's great because everybody's got their own completely different tastes, isn't it? And that's why it was quite difficult to think of an example. But just for a few minutes, I think it's the first couple of minutes because of obviously the time here, just going to play something that makes me, and I think possibly will make you as well, feel kind of calm or blissful. Hopefully this will work. Never know too much with this, do you? But share screen and let me know if this sound's working, please. Good.
On this midsummer night, everyone is sleeping. We go into the moonlight. Could be in a dream. Our clothes around the beach, these prints of our feet lead right up to the sea. No one is here. No one is here. We stand in the Atlantic. We become panoramic. We tire of the city.
I'm just going to stop that there. Seems terrible to stop it.
Yes. That's
So I was
true.
feeling almost too relaxed there, I think.
Exactly.
Okay, just conscious a little bit of the time, but okay. So yes, so back to the sort of classroom, I suppose. Martin Seligman came out with what he called the 5 pillars of well-being. And I think that music can be used to harness all of these in your classroom relatively easily, I think. So going through in the sort of order in which they spell out PERMA, you know, so starting there in the sort of top left corner, the bit that's taken away, you know, music can make you feel good. When we've established that already, right? It can engender positive emotions. It can take you out of negative feelings. So it can, of course, it's great to match that, put it onto your mood, but you can actually use it to manipulate it, I think. Looking at the E there, it can help you engage. It can help you find flow. You don't need drinks to get on the dance floor. You just needs to be the right kind of music. I don't know about you, but I look like a robot in a bad way to some music. But when other music comes on, well, maybe it's what you feel inside. Maybe it just looks awful anyway. But with other kind of music, you know, you can kind of find your flow inside. If you're talking about something like dancing, which is an embodiment, I think, of listening to music. Going on to the R there, it can help you to build relationships and authentic connections. We were talking earlier about the lyrics there and the power that the Waterboys track had in sort of curing, really, Martin Leeds, you know. Looking at the M there, it can give meaning, you know, it gives us those kind of feelings that really, it's very hard to put into words. Some of these concepts, I think, in this talk are quite hard to verbalize. We know them deep down, but we're trying to kind of verbalize them. Then last one, this sort of sense of achievement. This is possibly the hardest one to establish, how you could do this in the classroom if you don't make music. But the music isn't the reserve just of talented musicians and people that can make it, because you can have a sense of accomplishment through music. It can be something as simple as the pride you feel in recognizing a tune from a few bars. I watch a very popular quiz show over here, which is called House of Games, and they have one where, you know, you hear a little bit of music and you sort of time when the vocals come in, and, you know, all those sort of things gives you a sense of achievement. Remembering the tune to a song, remembering the lyrics, singing along, all of these things, you know, doing this at the right time can give us a sense of accomplishment. So all these 5 pillars, that Martin Seligman talks about here, are all applicable, you know, and can be used in the classroom. And I've been rushing through this, and it's quite a concentrated area, but you can find out more, of course, by Googling. So I think that, you know, such power over the way we think and act is an attribute within music that's clearly ready and waiting to be harnessed. And all that remains is for us to search for ways and means of making the most of what it has to offer. And inherent in music's ability to interact with us is the opportunity it affords us to explore topics in a personal rather than an abstract way, without perhaps the kind of preachier elements that are apparent in other forms of input. Songs also offer ways of enlightening students on perspectives on issues, which can help to give them clarity and understanding. And I think, you know, songs and music are a great resource that offers students the wherewithal to make sense of what's occurring in the world around them. They can engender positivity and hope, but crucially, I think, grounded in kind of realism rather than false or delusional hope. And I think also that using this resource might, though, depend on barriers. These barriers might be ones imposed on you when we're talking about using them in the classroom. For example, the syllabus, your class's needs, your class's preferences, etc., as well as those that are self-imposed, including the extent to which you feel it's your duty to educate and enlighten students in relation to more political issues through this as a medium. And if you like those kind of ideas, feel free to take a photo of this QR code. So this is an article that I wrote earlier in the year, of which this talk is based on, really. It's all about uplifting sentient spirits. And that's from the Humanizing Language Teaching magazine, which is a great magazine, and comes out, I think, bi-monthly. Well, no, not 2 times a month, but it comes out every 2 months. So worryingly commonplace nowadays. I think there's issues such as hate crime, bullying, abuse, violence, and all these things can make it hard for young people to make sense of the world in which they're growing up into. Such occurrences and the confusion that they can bring can lead to a sense that life is cruel or meaningless. It can lead to feelings of depression. It can lead to other mental health issues and or feelings of loneliness. But there are, you know, a plethora of suitable songs out there. I'm sure that ones, when I've just said that, ones have come to mind that aren't even these, but just to give you a few examples, you know, loss, pain, and loneliness are brought to the fore in REM's Everybody Hurts. The track was originally conceived when the songwriter Michael Stipe discovered the shockingly high teen suicide figures in the USA. Or slightly more recently, Lucas Graham's 7 Years, which looks at issues surrounding the difficulties involving growing up, and in this case, growing up a little bit too quickly, really. 9 Inch Nails' famous Hurt, which is probably more famous actually, because it was covered by kind of country legend Johnny Cash, which deals with the issue of self-harming. And also another one that could be used, which you might not be familiar with, but it's a track called Video by India Arie, which promotes positive self-image amongst young women and the focus on knowing your own worth and believing in yourself. I think that using carefully chosen songs and well thought out teaching materials based on them can help understanding of concerns of both a global and a personal nature. And in turn, they offer the possibility of uplifting, motivating, and comforting students. And perhaps it's not too much of a claim to say they could be used as some aid to healing. Music's ability to tap into our inner moods and concerns then is a significant one. Sometimes the mood is increased exponentially with the addition of a video. So here's a video that I use in class, and we can watch a little bit of it. We don't have quite the time in the session to watch all of it. It's quite long. That I think is particularly good given what we've gone through, which I referred to in the beginning. So I should just reveal this bit by bit. This is a track called New World. It's by a kind of vocal supergroup, various people working together, Americans. I think you pronounce the name of the band as, it doesn't say it on there actually, but Sage, to rhyme with beige. And they did a cover of New World by Bjork. And the emotive video there, which we can look at very briefly, I think, could be used in all sorts of ways to look back at what we've endured in these last years, which for many of us have been the hardest that we've ever had to deal with. And I think the images in the video are nicely realistic because there's a mixture of hope and joy with acknowledgement of what we've been through, the difficulty and the heartbreak and everything like that. And in terms of what you could do with the students with this, get them to listen, get them to watch, get them to the music and the concepts in the video to kind of soak in. Ask them, how the song makes you feel, how the images make you feel, what they bring to mind, which were most striking. And often that would be the case of what people could relate to, particularly for themselves. And then perhaps if you feel it's right with the class, they're in the right kind of place and all this, tell your stories related to these images. It's obviously about the last few years, about the pandemic. And obviously with something like this, don't be surprised if you get tears from your students or if you cry, because these were such really, really, really difficult times, that we haven't we've kind of glossed through them and we've gone through and we've got through them, but I don't think we've dealt with them quite yet. Because of time, I won't be able to show the whole thing, I don't think, but just a little, give you an idea of what it's about, what it looks like. Got sound? Watch a couple of minutes because it's about 8 or 9 minutes long.
Train whistle, sweet clementine, blueberries, dancers in line, cobwebs are bakery sign. Ooh, a sweet clementine. Ooh, dancers in line. Ooh, if living is seeing, I'm holding my breath in wonder. I wonder what happens next. A new day, a new world to softly walking on air, halfway through heaven. From here, sunlight unfolds in my hair. Ooh, I'm walking on air. Ooh, to heaven from here. Ooh.
Okay. Once again, it's a shame to stop it because it's so wonderful, but there's a link there for you and etc. So I'll get back to my PPT. It's probably not the right one. Don't know, I've done hundreds of these. Still the same. Still all the same. Flapping around.
Unfortunately, yes, we have only a few minutes left, Chris. Yes,
How long?
that's
How long?
a
5
real
minutes?
pity.
5 minutes? Did you say?
Yes, about
Yeah,
5
that's
minutes.
okay. Because this is my conclusion slide, and then I should just
Okay, good.
do, QR codes. So don't get me wrong, you know, I'd like to teach the world to sing, you know, I'd love to encourage everybody to use songs in their classes, but it's possible that teaching via the medium of songs is not for everybody. Perhaps it needs to be in our nature. Perhaps it's a reflection of our identity as human beings, not just as teachers. For as Alice Hammercheck said, consciously we teach what we know and unconsciously we teach who we are. Music and songs then are a resource which one should keep an open mind to and which should always be a consideration for classroom usage. They contain within them a wealth of possibilities for exploitation in teaching and education. They're a timeless resource that can be used to explore, empower and enlighten in a way that perhaps no other input source achieves quite so well or so succinctly. They also contain within them the power to change thinking. Protest songs, for example, whether delivered aggressively or defensively, passionately, pleadingly, or otherwise, are amongst the finest ways to highlight the important issues that are happening or that have happened in our world. And so then we return to Jimmy, where we started, who was not wrong, I feel, when he said, if there's something to be changed in this world, then it can only happen through music. This session is part of a wider session in which called 2020's Vision, which chooses songs to highlight social justice issues, personal issues, controversial issues, believing that these are kind of things that we should be focusing students' minds on as we move into this already quite challenging decade. And for those of you that like freebies, oh, well, not yet, actually, this is the links to things, first of all. So this is a link to my Facebook group, if you'd like to join. It's quite a busy group with a few sort of famous ELT people in it. There's a link to my website there, Teaching Tracks, and my YouTube channel, in which I put up old recordings or recordings from the past, which vary quite a lot in nature, I think. And also to make you aware of Training Tracks, which, as well as Teaching Tracks, Training Tracks is a bespoke online face-to-face course that I do for people. I've done quite a few of them. Not done one yet in Italy, so that would be a first for me if anyone's interested. And there's my contact details there. Moving on to freebies. These are initial books that I called singles. If you go to the QR codes there, you can see what comes up inside. And just explore, what you can do with a song in depth, which is very much what I'm interested in, the depth, not the obvious, gap fill and all that kind of stuff. This is a link to the website to find out more about the bigger books. And these albums contain lots of different songs, in fact 10, hence the name, top 10. And that sort of brings me probably to a slightly early close after all that, with some sort of references for today. But it'd be nice to take some questions, I suppose, from people.
Yes, actually, there were some more than questions, just sharing opinion, like the potential of music and how much music can enhance students' ability to learn as well in their learning process. So how powerful music can be in our learning experience and us as teachers to use it properly and really has a potentials that thanks to your clear presentation and webinar, we may actually feel even more clear about. And could we have references again? That's what Maria Pinto is asking as well.
So this was some of the sources. This is not done as a QR code. If anyone wanted a reference to that, the articles I've written, I can go back to that one. So these were just some of various different ones that came into today's, from David Crystal, from the story about Thomas Leeds, and then the more academic ones as well.
Okay, everybody is really thanking you so much for this very interesting, captivating and stimulating webinar, really. I think we all feel much healed, in tune with ourselves in a way, after listening to those beautiful songs actually that you picked. Everybody saying thanks, brilliant. It's been really excellent.
Yeah, I can see from the chat box. That's
I read numerous participants that really are sharing their positivity.
Yeah, I think so. That's lovely. How uplifting is that? Inspiring.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope that people obviously these time limits are there's a limit to what you can do, but there's a range of ideas there, I think, for people to play around with.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris Walkett. Really, on behalf of TESOL Italy, I really would like to thank you, and I thank all the participants. And I just want to remind that certificates of attendance will be available to download from the website at the end of the convention. And once again, thanks a million. Thanks a lot, Chris, for your great webinar.
That's lovely. I've really enjoyed presenting today, and hopefully people have got some inspiration and ideas from it.
I'm sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye, Chris. Goodbye, everyone.
You said that the road to happiness was long and winding. You said that the forests would get dark, and that the ground could shift here upon this hill we're climbing. No matter how close we get, we're still so far. But I trust we'll find the clearing. I'm trusting the trail. No matter what we're feeling, there's one way we can't fail. Let's just keep hiking. Let's plant our feet. Let's just keep hiking. Keep hiking with me. Hold my said the road up to success was an impossible test unless we had some sort of map. And I could feel it in my chest just as our feet begged us to rest. I think this just might be the end of that, but I said I trust we'll find the clearing. I'm trusting the trail. No matter what we're feeling, there's one way we can't fail. Let's just keep hiking. Let's plant our feet. Let's just keep hiking. Keep hiking with me. Hold my hand, baby. Keep hiking.